Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going into the story behind a piece of gear that really did change everything in music. Seriously. We're talking about an invention that, almost 50 years back didn't just push technology forward, it kind of created this whole new sonic world, and it became a total legend. So, our mission today, we're doing a deep dive into the Eventide H910 Harmonizer, this one box. It wasn't just smart engineering. It became this cultural icon almost, where its weird little quirks, its sonic imperfections, they weren't just tolerated. People actively sought them out. They wove them into huge hit records. So we'll unpack where it came from, what made it sound so unique, and talk about the amazing artists who made it famous.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story because, innovation in music tech isn't always about getting things perfect or super clean. Sometimes the most valuable thing about a new tool is its unexpected character, its little oddities. And artists grab onto that, they make something totally new. The H910 is like the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Its flaws became its magic.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, let's dive in then. The Eventide H910 Harmonizer. It arrives in 1975, and honestly, it was like a bomb going off in the audio world. This wasn't just another guitar pedal or something. It was the world's first digital effects processor you could actually get in a rack mount unit, developed by Tony Agnello over at Eventide. And you have to remember, before this, studios were pretty much all analog. Tape, tubes, transistors. That was the world. The idea of manipulating sound digitally in real time, that was, well, almost science fiction.
Right, and that's exactly why it was such a revolution. The H910 brought real-time pitch shifting into the studio. That just hadn't really existed in a practical way before. I mean, sure, you could speed up tape, but that changed the tempo too, right? The H910 was different. It combined pitch shifting with delay and, crucially, feedback. It just opened up this whole new playground for sound shaping. They even called it a harmonizer, specifically because it could change pitch and affect time simultaneously. No analog box could do that without messing up the performance speed.
Yeah, and the impact of that, it's hard to really overstate it. That mix of pitch and time control wasn't just a neat trick. It blew the doors wide open creatively. Imagine being a producer in 75. Suddenly you can detune a vocal slightly, add this weird harmony, totally warp a drum kit, stuff you just couldn't do before.
Exactly. It wasn't just a new effect. It felt like a whole new dimension of sound control. For studios, for live shows.
Yeah.
It changed the game.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. When you look under the hood, the technology itself, the H910 was built around a 12-bit digital processor. Now today, 12-bit sounds, well, kind of ancient, right? We're used to 24-bit, 32-bit float.
Oh yeah, absolutely primitive by modern standards.
But back then, in 1975, 12-bit digital processing for audio was absolutely bleeding edge. It was a massive leap, but it definitely came with its own sound.
It did. And those limitations, kind of surprisingly, became key to why people loved it so much. So what could it actually do? Well, you had real-time pitch shifting, variable across plus or minus 1 octave. Wasn't perfectly clean, as we'll get to, but the control was new. Then there was a delay line, up to about 112.5 milliseconds.
Yeah.
Not super long for big echoes, but perfect for, like, slap-back doubling effects, making things sound wider.
Right, that classic doubling sound.
Exactly. But the real wild card was the feedback control. You could route the output back into the input. And that created these, well, people call them glitchy loops, spiraling pitch effects, cascading sounds. They were kind of unpredictable, almost chaotic sometimes.
Sounds fun.
Oh, yeah. And if you wanted precision, there was an optional keyboard remote, the H910NR, let you dial in exact musical pitch ratios. Pretty neat.
But let's talk about those imperfections again. That's what made it legendary, right? It wasn't clean. When you shifted the pitch, especially if you pushed it hard, it got grainy. You could hear the digital processing. There was this digital grit.
Yeah.
Very different from warm tape echo.
Totally. That glitchy, almost robotic kind of alien character. It wasn't seen as a flaw to hide. They're really creative people back then. They jumped on it. It became a sound in itself, something you'd use on purpose. Think about it. You're exploring new sounds, and this box doesn't just repeat the sound, it mangles it in this unique way.
So it was versatile, too, not just weird noises.
Oh, incredibly versatile. Yeah, you can use it subtly for just thickening a vocal, making one singer sound like two, or widening a guitar. Or you could push it into those crazy sci-fi textures that sounded like they came from another planet. It really shows how limitations can sometimes spark incredible creativity, pushing artists into places they hadn't thought of.
Okay, so this thing sounds amazing technically, but what did it actually mean for the music we all know and love? Let's talk impact.
The H910's influence is just massive, mainly because so many huge artists and producers grabbed it right away and made it sound part of their own. It wasn't just gear. It was like a creative partner. Absolutely. It wasn't just sitting in racks collecting dust. It became a go-to piece. You hear it across rock, pop, experimental music, everywhere. Let's name some names. Tony Visconti, famous for producing David Bowie. He used the H910 all over Bowie's Young Americans and Low albums.
Oh, wow. How?
On Young Americans, he'd run the drums through it, created this amazing kind of phasey, multi-Bowie drum sound, as he called it. He also used it for subtle detuning on Bowie's vocals, giving them that rich, slightly weird width.
Ah, that famous Bowie sound.
Yeah, and on low drum machines, synths, they got the H910 treatment, gave them that digital sheen, that grit that became so tied to Bowie's Berlin era.
Incredible. Who else?
Well, Frank Zappa. You know Zappa, always pushing boundaries. He loved the glitchy alien sounds. He'd use it to mangle vocals, create totally bizarre synth effects, throw these weird sonic curveballs into his super complex music. Imagine a guitar solo just dissolving into digital noise. That's Zappa with an H910.
Of course Zappa would embrace the weirdness.
Definitely. Then you've got rock gods like Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin. He used it live and in the studio for guitar effects. Sometimes subtle detuning, making the guitar sound thicker, almost like a chorus. Other times for more dramatic pitch bends, stuff you couldn't really do with pedals back then. Added another layer to his sound.
And Eddie Van Halen. I heard he used Eventide stuff.
Yep, Eddie was an early adopter too. Used harmonizers to get that huge, wide guitar tone. Just a little detune or short delay through the H910, and suddenly his guitar filled the whole stadium, made those iconic solos even bigger.
Even AC/DC. They seem so straightforward.
Yeah, even AC/DC. They used it more subtly, often on vocals and guitars for doubling effects. Just added that extra bit of richness and power, a kind of sheen you couldn't get just from double tracking on tape.
That's surprising. And on the other end of the spectrum.
Right, more experimental artists like Laurie Anderson. She fully integrated the H910 into her avant-garde work, processing her voice, creating gender-bending effects, robotic chants, these amazing sound textures that were pure H910 glitchiness. For her, it wasn't about sounding good conventionally. It was about using the machine's character as part of the art.
Wow. So it's clear they weren't just using a tool. They were really collaborated with its personality.
Exactly. They weren't fighting the flaws. They were leaning into them, making them essential.
Yeah.
The H910 wasn't just adding an effect. It was reshaping sound itself, a real muse for a generation.
Thinking about all that, its legacy, it's just huge. This wasn't just one effect box. It was the first accessible digital effects processor. It fundamentally changed the studio. It didn't just unlock new sounds. It basically paved the way for all the digital audio processing we take for granted now.
It really did. I mean, think about modern pitch correction like Auto-Tune or time-stretching software.
Yeah.
They all stand on the shoulders of the H910's pioneering work. And Eventide kept building on it, of course. The H949 came out in '79. It had smoother pitch shifting, less glitching, even de-glitch algorithms, plus longer delay. Then in the '80s, you got legendary units like the SP2016, the H3000 Harmonizer, adding reverb, chorus, more complex pitch stuff. They kept pushing forward.
Okay, but that raises a key question then. If the newer boxes, like the H949, were technically better, smoother, less glitchy, why did people keep loving the original H910 so much? Why stick with the imperfect one?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those imperfections became its legend. They weren't just tolerated, they were desired. Sure, the newer units were cleaner, more transparent, but the H910 had this specific character. Those glitches, that grainy texture, the way it could sound almost robotic. You couldn't get that exact sound from the better units.
So artists wanted that specific flavor.
Exactly. That specific color, that unique digital signature. Its legacy is so powerful that Eventide still keeps it alive today. There's the H910 plugin, a software version for your computer. Its algorithms are in their modern multi-effects pedals like the H9 and H90. And back in 2015, they even did a limited hardware reissue, a faithful recreation for the real purists.
Amazing. So it's still relevant.
Absolutely. It's seen as this historic milestone and a creative tool that artists still reach for when they want that specific, wonderfully unpolished sound. It kind of proves that sometimes the art isn't working with the machine's quirks, not just trying to make it perfect.
Well, that feels like a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive on the Eventide H910 Harmonizer. What a journey. From being this revolutionary first digital box to becoming this enduring icon. It's just incredible how its supposed flaws became the very things people loved, shaping so much music we still listen to.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? About how true innovation isn't always about perfection. Sometimes it's about the unique character, the unexpected textures a new tool offers. The H910 basically invited artists to play with the glitches, to find music in the noise. So maybe it's something for you, the listener, to chew on. What other imperfect technologies out there in any field have had that kind of lasting impact, where the quirks themselves opened up totally new ways to create?